Welcome to the Tarot Coven Cast. Real people, real talk, real magic. Hello out there, lovely listeners, and welcome to the Tarot Coven Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jasmine.
I'm Elena.
And I'm Jekanovia.
And this time on the show, we're wrapping up our two-part series exploring the intersections of numerology and tarot. If you haven't heard part one, go back and check that out first. And if you happen to be a fan of the Barbra Streisand film Yentl, you are in for a real treat. But first, we're going to chat a little bit about this thing that we've been calling the spiritual slump, which is basically when you're feeling a little bit disconnected from your practices. So you're just not really into picking up the tarot cards, or you're not wanting to check the transits, or you're not wanting to do spells, whatever. You're not even wanting to light a candle. You're just feeling disconnected. You can't get into it. What do? I mean, I think that we've all been in this situation, right? It's pretty common.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I know for me, like last summer, I didn't pull cards for myself for like a month or more. And I had no interest, and it was making me a little bit sad because I was like, is tarot over for me? Like, is this it? You know, am I never going to go back to this? And it was a weird time, but I think in the end, I was really grateful to have the space because my energy was renewed when I got back into it. And I guess for me, one of the things that I did was I decided to get a tarot deck that was really, really different from Smith-Waite, all the Smith-Waite sort of, I don't want to call them clones, but the lovers of Smith-Waite that have come after. I don't know how to describe that.
The Smith-Waite reflective desk.
Yeah, okay, perfect. That's nice.
I like Smith-Waite having lovers, though.
The Smith-Waite lovers, yeah.
Because
it's offspring, or I don't know. But anyways, you catch my drift. But so what I did was, I got a deck that was just so completely different. So it kind of forced me to really just look at the tarot from a new lens, and also stop relying on everything that I had learned before. Because I think I was feeling a little bit of stagnancy as well. Like, oh, great, the magician means this, or the high priest, or whatever. And it was just like nothing was really igniting that flame for me anymore. But then I got this new deck looking at it in a different way, and I wasn't like immediately back into things, but it did start to bring me around to it again. So and that's basically the only experience that I really have with this kind of thing. But we were talking about this before recording, and Elena, you were saying you know a lot of people that you feel have been going through this kind of thing actually pretty recently, which I guess isn't surprising, especially since it's been kind of the winter flaws, but
right. And I think too, and I don't know, maybe this could be a few different things and a few different people might resonate with this, but I noticed that for me, the winter time, I always go down. So when Aries season, I love Aries. Actually, I take that back. Pisces season is when my moods start to pick back up, and it preps me for Aries season, and then I'm good. But then as soon as we hit Scorpio season, I'm downhill. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But that I noticed that affects me spiritually. And then the second thing that affects me
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like, don't come for Scorpios, because we will come for you, girl.
I'm not coming for Scorpios because
I know.
But it's the energy that I don't know what it is. I think it's because it actually challenges you to do the shadow work, and
Totally.
I end up. And I'm not those kind of people that is going to push it away. I'm like, all right, I'm going to face it, and then let's see what I need to do, because there's a reason why you're being called to figure shit out. Yeah. But the other thing that I noticed too, is when I have a lot of stuff going on in my mundane life that I have to handle, I feel like my energy gets put on that. Or if I'm working on something creatively, like creating my tarot deck or making the bath salts or trying to create my labels, like I feel like I put tarot to the side for a bit, or meditation or journaling. And what I have been doing, because I did go for a few weeks without really pulling cards for myself, I just asked other people to pull cards for me to just kind of help me keep into it. And then when people start pulling other cards for me, or I go on YouTube and watch a pick a pile, then I get motivated more. And then I like what you said about the stagnancy, because when I decided to create the tarot deck, I decided I'm just going to write my own journal and start card for card but read other sources, talk to other people about what they thought about cards meant. And that sparked up my love for it again. So that's how I kind of got back, and like I jumped back and forth to it. But so I don't know if people get like seasonal depression or seasonal funks,
Totally.
and so maybe that, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Jaconovia, before we dive into maybe some of your personal experiences, something that I'm noticing, at least between what Elena and I are talking about, is that we're not, during these times, we weren't like, we might have felt some kind of way about it, but we didn't force ourselves to get back into it. Like we just kind of, we were letting it happen. We were recognizing that it was happening, but I mean, yes, maybe seeking other ways to feel that connection again, but also not freaking out about it, like just realizing that there are certain times of the year that we're going to feel certain ways, or, everything happens in these cycles. And I think that if you pull a tarot card every day and you feel good about that, that's great. But also there's a lot of pressure to do that. So feeling like it's okay to not have to do that is important, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I feel very much the same. If you're having to force it, if you have to force yourself, whether it's tarot or your spiritual practice or your altar or whatever, if you're forcing it, then it's not authentic. And then, I mean, you may as well be under any other kind of dogma that just says what you have to do and you have to follow those rules. The thing is, with your spiritual practice, you need to come at it from a place of, I want to be here. I want to do this. It can't be a chore. It can't be something else on your to-do list, because then what is the point? And then like reflecting that too, like that's okay. That's part of your natural rhythm. Like, do you really think that all of our ancestors practiced every single day when they had, they had to harvest and they had to cook and they had to do all these things?
When they had a zillion other things to do. Yeah.
Exactly. And, their lives depended on it. Yeah. It goes back to, I think it was you guys that I had the conversation with. Like, we have all this stuff, this stigma now around like candles. You need certain color candles for certain spells and this. That's not how the ancestors did it. They used what they had and when they had it. And if they didn't have it, they just didn't use it. So it's the same kind of situation.
Exactly.
And then for me, like my altar, I'm a terrible pagan. My altar still has my inbox stuff. I'm just not ready to clear out my inbox. I have not put an Ostara altar together yet.
Right.
And I don't feel stressed about it because I know it's not out of disrespect or ignorance. It's just I don't feel like I want to do it yet. And that's okay. So yeah, and to get out of the slumps, it's just a matter of, writing it out. And when you feel drawn to it, that's when you pick up your cards again or clear off your altar or go for a walk, whatever it is.
I think it's really good. I mean, for listeners that maybe don't know, like Jaconovia, you've been pulling tarot cards for decades. Like you've been doing practices for decades. And it's really important for people to hear that even somebody who has been doing it that long still has these periods of time, and I do kind of wonder if, I mean, I don't know, listeners, like get in touch with us. Let us know. Do you still feel this way? Is it something that you felt at the beginning of your practice when maybe you're feeling overwhelmed because there's so many things coming at you? You're learning tarot, astrology, numerology, witchcraft, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you're going to get burnt out, and it makes a lot of sense. But yeah.
I mean, even people who have their dream job and their dream home, they still go on vacations because they need to change the scenery.
Totally.
They need to recharge.
That's a great point.
So yeah. So go easy on yourself. It's perfectly fine to take a break if you're not feeling it.
Yeah. And I will say, just as also like a little tease for an upcoming episode, I've been reading, of course, for our book club episode, The Power of Tarot by Liz Worth. And you never know where that like reinvigoration is going to come from. I was reading her section on the elements, and I'm like, all I want to do now is pull cards and look at the elements. I don't care like what's happening in the cards. I don't care what number it is. Like, I just want to look at it based on like fire, earth, air, water, and just see what's happening, because it was so fascinating the way that she was talking about it. And of course, like elements also play a big role in astrology. So it's something that I'm kind of tuned into as well over there. But just, I guess, staying open to things and not forcing it, right? And letting that inspiration come from wherever it might come from. So
yes, because the Awen comes to you, and you just have to open yourself up to it in whatever form it comes.
So pretty.
And then switch it up. Switch it up. Like what I'm trying right now, I'm always doing different things. But what I'm trying right now is like 1 week I'll do astrology, and 1 week I'll study tarot. 1 week I'll do Reiki. Like I break it up so I'm not like, oh my God, I'm not doing this, or oh my God, I'm not doing that. Because there's so much I want to know about, and I have, there's just too much. You overwhelm yourself. Like you said, you can get burned out on top of just being human and trying to survive. So I've been trying to break it up, where 1 week I'll just focus on tarot stuff and read up on tarot, whatever I need to do. And then 1 week I'll maybe study a chakra or something, just so I can not overdo it.
Yeah. And I think, like that kind of system, I think will work for somebody like you, maybe even somebody like you, Jackanovia, where you have that Gemini rising and you can really branch out and do a bunch of different things at once.
Yeah.
But for me, what I've noticed is that early on when I was getting into all of this kind of stuff, I wanted it all. I wanted to know everything. I needed it all in my life. It was like that Scorpio obsessiveness. And then I realized like it was really just astrology and tarot, and that's it. And I'm good with that. I'm okay with that. Like that is my witchcraft. That is good enough for me. So also maybe you need to just refine the focus, and maybe that can help bring you back on track.
Yeah. And focus only on what actually inspires you, because
Yes.
again, that brings you back to what's the point if it's not something you enjoy?
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's also too, maybe if you're not feeling drawn to the tarot, or not feeling drawn to whatever your practice is, maybe that's your body's way of saying, I need a break. I need some care now. You need to turn your attention to me, which taking care of your body is a spiritual act in itself.
Yes.
So if you're taking a long soak in a bath or getting enough sleep is a big deal too. You're actually recharging the vessel of your spirit. So you're doing spiritual work, even if you're not actively learning something or practicing something.
I was just going to say our body holds all that past trauma. So we have to take care of our bodies. That's why I love listening to myself and actually, well, now listening to myself and taking my breaks and my baths and my walks.
I think that's a great point. I think people often forget that, astrology, tarot, all this stuff is great, but it's you that's doing it. Like, it's all happening through you. So if you're burnt out and not feeling it, I mean, you have to go and recharge those batteries, because it's just never going to work properly, quote unquote, if you're not there.
You're not going to make the connections you need, and you're going to have to revisit the stuff anyway. So take the break and then come back to it fresh.
I like that you said recharge the batteries, because that's exactly what I saw like a week ago when I was meditating with Metatron. He literally showed me a charging strip with like all the chakras, like if they were lights, and my root, the sacral, and the solar were blinking like if I needed to plug them in. And it was like it looked like a charging station. It was really freaking cool.
That is really cool. What a direct message.
He's very direct.
That's super handy.
He's the best.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we could probably talk about that for a lot longer. It was originally an idea for a full episode, but I don't know that it's a full episode. Maybe it's also a topic on Instagram Live if we want to have some interaction with people. So, listeners, if you want us to talk more about this, like I said, maybe on an Instagram Live, let us know. Write in with your experiences or something. Or yeah, for sure. Shall we tackle some numbers?
Let's do some math.
Nah, just numbers.
Just numbers and tarots. Fuck math.
So let's get started with our sixes. So some tarot-based keywords for sixes are communication, cooperation, harmony, adjustment, alignment, growth, clarity, movement, restoration, and duality. And some numerology-based stuff is the idea of being soft and tender, nurturing, supportive, empathetic, being a healer, being protective, having a deep sense of responsibility to family. There's a real caregiver energy, but there's this idea that not everything needs caretaking, so it can maybe get a little overbearing. And then, oh gosh, here is some math. I've done it to myself again, I see. So 6 is both the sum and the product of its factors. My eyes are so wide right now as I try to read this. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, and 1 times 2 times 3 is 6, which makes it a perfect number, which are known for being very stable and harmonious. And then from the Life You Were Born to Live book, we've got vision through acceptance. Community, doing your part and pulling your own weight, embracing new ideas and solutions, holding a vision versus sticking to a plan, self-acceptance in order to accept others, and letting go of what you cannot control. That's beautiful. Vision through acceptance. I feel like that's going to play a really big role with the devil, actually. And speaking of which, the cards in this group would be the 6s of each suit, the Lovers, and the Devil. And let's chat about some connections or shared themes between all these cards. So with the Swords and the Wands, so the 6 of Swords, the 6 of Wands, we see movement, right? And then with the Pentacles and Cups, we see some sharing happening. The Lovers and the Devil, there is that sense of duality. And who put this one about the relationship between the devil and the lovers?
That was me.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I mean, I've just been playing around with this idea. I haven't fully formed the concept yet, but like kind of playing with the relationship between the devil and the lovers and how one can kind of masquerade as the other. Like it just depends on the context. So for an example, like a great contract with this amazingly, this job seems amazing. It's got great pay, but there's a really big cost to your personal life and your mental health. So that would be the devil disguised as the lover.
Whoa, I love this.
So yeah, it's like I said, I haven't finished forming my ideas around it, but that's just kind of where I'm at.
I really like that.
It's like the shadow side of the Lovers. I'm looking at them together.
In a way, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it looks so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they mirror each other, right?
The visuals there, I mean, they are meant to be, I think they are meant to be looked at together in some senses to understand different aspects of them. But like that vision through acceptance kind of thing, like it's almost like, I feel like you can gain some clarity when working with the devil by like whether or not you're doing maybe some shadow work or something, or if you're just kind of coming to terms with like, okay, these are the things that were holding me back or were maybe a little bit of self-undoing or something. And then through that acceptance, it's that clarity that's maybe coming through.
Yeah. And that it always brings to mind, I first heard this concept from Kellyanne Maddox. It's this radical acceptance. So it's like everything is the way it is. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept it. So just accept every little bit of everything. It doesn't mean you have to keep it in your life or whatever, but you can't do anything about it until you've accepted that that's just the way it is. And so by doing that radical acceptance, you can create a vision of, where you want to be, what you want to do, how you're going to get there.
Very cool. I'm just like thinking about all of those words and looking over all of the 6s that are sprawled out on my desk. And I'm really getting that vibe too from the 6 of Swords. There's something, I mean, yeah, the figures in the boat seem a little upset. Maybe they're hanging their heads, but they're still making the move, right?
Right.
Yeah. See, now, before I got the Before Tarot, I always had this concept. It's like, well, who's steering your boat? Like, are they really taking you where you should be going? Or which is still a valid thing to speak about. But with the Before Tarot, there's actually one figure is helping another one into it. Like they're helping this person escape or they're helping this person move forward. So they're actually doing what that person needs and protecting them.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's such a caretaker energy of the person that's steering the boat. And it's like, because it has to do with our thoughts and stuff, I've always seen it too as like, I can't see what's happening in my own life right now. And I need somebody else to kind of guide me for a little bit.
Yeah, like a counselor or,
totally. Or even just a friend or like a third party objective opinion, like.
Yeah.
Okay, so some in real life examples of being in the 6 energy would be feeling normal again after a period of contraction, change, or conflict. And, normal is, of course, subjective, but we have just been through the 5s, which was that period of contraction. And so we're kind of coming out of that in the 6s. So it's maybe the first thing that makes you smile after a period of mourning. Or a realization of how to move forward. Even if you can't yet do so, the knowledge of how to do so is there.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
moving
I
through this numerology stuff, I'm seeing so much more in the cards.
This is another thing that's really, I mean, first of all, doing the astrology correspondences as we move through the suits, now doing this number stuff, and like I mentioned about reading through the elementals in Liz Worth's book, breaking down the tarot in this way is really helpful. Like you get lost in the 78 cards, and then you remember that it's just all of these smaller chunks of things that you can, view it through.
Yeah. And then we always have to also take that step back and go, okay, they're just cards. We're actually exploring these things within ourselves.
Yes.
So it's just like, wow, we're so much more deep and so much more complex. And, we have all these different facets, and it's like exploring ourselves with the cards. And anyway, that's where I wanted to go with that.
Awesome. Final thing I was going to say about the sixes is that I'm actually really excited to, this is kind of making me want to do the major arcana in a certain way. Like I wonder if next season we should do still number families when we're breaking down the majors, because there's just, or maybe we just do the devil and the lover specifically together, because there is definitely something about their visuals that make me want to, tackle them together, but we shall see.
Yeah. I'm up for that.
To be continued.
Yes. Okay. Are we ready for the sevens?
Let's do it.
Let's do sevens. Okay. So the tarot-based tarot-based energies of the seven is reflection, assessment, knowledge, reevaluation, investigation, introspection, strategy, inner work, kind of around external solutions, which, Jasmine, I think that was your note, right?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that? Because that was so interesting. And I just want to know where.
I think I maybe worded this incorrectly as I was writing the notes, but I think I meant to write an inner work around an external situation, not solution. So in a sense, like when we think that the problem is outside of us, but really we need to turn back inwards. So that's my bad. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I actually prefer it external solution, because it's almost like when you're working on your inner self, everything around you starts to change, whether it's because you're setting boundaries or changes or, taking care of yourself. That can be
I mean, it still works, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I wanted to see if that's where you were going with it.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, pretty much, but just with like a different
words.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then testing, sorting out. So decision making. And okay. So the numerology-based energies are investigative, analytical, the detective, detail-oriented, observant, quick wit, inventive, perfectionist, skeptic. So learning to keep an open mind. I like that because I think a lot of people get tripped up on the term skeptic, and they don't they want to associate as a skeptic and only a skeptic, like they don't believe anything. And then there's the opposite, who don't want to be a skeptic. They want to believe everything and anything, and almost they take it to the other extreme. So I feel like this is kind of finding that balance in between those two.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's also a prime number, and it can only be divided by itself and number one. That's math again. It's math again.
I know.
Foreign words.
But these are what the numerologist told me was good about these numbers, so I had to bring it.
I'll let it pass. I'll let it pass.
At least you didn't have to do the plus, multiply.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad. Thank you for that. Okay, and this was really interesting. I never really thought about this. So the 7 wonders of the world, 7 colors in the rainbow, 7 days of the week, 7 traditional planets in astrology, which, okay, obviously I don't know that one, and the lucky number 7. So what are the traditional planets in astrology? Because I don't know.
So just it's it's actually 5 planets and 2 luminaries. So the sun and the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So it just doesn't include Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, just because they were discovered relatively recently in terms of the history of astrology.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't care what anybody says, Pluto is still a planet.
Oh, for sure. It's just not so the way that I practice astrology, like in the modern tradition, some people might associate Pluto as Scorpio's ruler, but I look to Mars as Scorpio's ruler.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think maybe it's just like our generation. I'm absolutely offended when Pluto lost its planet status. I was like, fuck Iris. I don't care about Iris.
Do you have Pluto in Scorpio? I would think you
maybe.
Would. Let me look.
I feel like anybody that does, like, I feel like the Pluto in Scorpio generation is particularly not happy with that because we're like, this is our
Why?
generation, man.
That's why I'm pissed. My Scorpio, is Pluto. I'm looking at my chart right now. I need it. Bitch ass NASA.
There's science behind that feeling.
I mean, I still think it's a real planet. I don't know. I mean, I think it got promoted again to a planet, but it's a dwarf.
Way better.
We're not playing these games, NASA. Who's deciding this shit?
Fuck you, NASA.
I know. Stay out of astrology, NASA.
Fuck you, NASA, you
Leave
clown.
us alone.
Okay, sorry I sidetracked us on that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
That's how bitter I am.
I'm bitter too.
I love it. Bring me the passion about astrology.
Anyways, number 7.
Okay. Number 7. Okay, so now we're moving into the Life You Were Born to Live book, and it's trust through openness. Now, this one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I really had to sit with it, but then I came up with like this quote, I guess. I made it up. In order to build trust, you must first give another person the chance to break it.
Whoa.
So it was like, oh.
When I read that, I was like, that's deep.
Yeah, I had to sit with it for a while, and that's what came up. And I was
that
like,
makes perfect sense.
It does. And I totally see that with this, even with the 7 of Pentacles just staring there, or just the 7 of Cups.
Yeah. Like whether it's trusting yourself or trusting someone else or just trusting a process, whatever it is.
That's all over the tower.
True.
Holy moly.
True. So some other energies are being vulnerable, knowing yourself, doing shadow work, taking an unbiased look and being honest with yourself and others, being mindful of the feelings of others. Words can cut deep. So it's all about remembering that. So like watch your words. It's not just about you trusting others. It's also about earning and deserving the trust of others. So it's kind of turning it. It's not all about us and whether we can trust other people. It's whether other people, if we're worthy of the trust of other people. Okay. So the cards, obviously the 7s of each suit and the Chariot and the Tower. And the more we talk about these kinds of things, those are the Chariot and Tower. They're starting to become 2 of my favorite cards.
No way.
Yeah. I don't know why. I haven't pinpointed why, but they're becoming. Empress is still up there. She's still up there for me.
Honestly, I don't mind the Tower. I never have. I don't know. I don't know if it's a Scorpio thing. I'm just willing to have that happen. And I actually prefer, because I'm so hard to get motivated on this kind of stuff, I would prefer an external situation to just come in, clear it away, get rid of it. Fine, whatever, let's do it. But the Chariot, I'm sorry, dude. I hate you so much. I hate this card. I cannot stand it.
Okay, sorry, I took us off on another tangent.
No, that's okay. And I feel like I should rescind my hate. I don't hate any cards as being, exaggerating. But anyway, just always had an issue.
I hate certain cards. It's not a secret. There's certain cards I hate.
That's true.
It's okay.
I feel like we have heard about them.
Yes. I'm just not even going to open that box right now. All right. So the connections and themes that are shared with all these 7 cards, each energy feels like a pivotal moment. So how to move forward from here. So, and then when I was thinking about it, I kind of came up with the storyline. So the 7 of Cups was this choice. The 7 of Swords was kind of figuring out your strategy. The 7 of Wands was defending and fighting for your decision and standing up for yourself. And the 7 of Pentacles was like that reflection and satisfaction after the work was done and you're starting to see the results. Okay. So the next connection is the Chariot and the Tower. So what I kind of thought about this is do we think that maybe the Chariot driver decided that it's time for the Tower to come down because he's a warrior? So, I mean, who do we think that they're fighting for or against? And if you really look at that Tower card, one of the figures falling out is like the king figure. He's got the crown and he's on his way down. So it's like he's falling out of his Eiffel Tower. So I started to wonder if maybe that's why these cards are connected, because the Chariot was like, fuck this, or, fuck patriarchy or whatever.
Yeah.
And cut it down.
I really like this. And it, it makes me like the Chariot a little bit more because now I don't think it's always going to come up in this sense, but I am now sort of seeing it. I mean, if these cards were to come up together, or if we're just trying to maybe read deeper into their layers, it's like maybe the Chariot is that external force that's helping the Tower come down. Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's that external force by, a group of people, a group of warriors.
Ooh.
That are just embodying that energy. There's just so many juicy ways to look at that.
Yeah. To me, both of these cards feel like, I think I wrote it earlier in the notes, but like pivotal moments to me. And it's like, you got to decide what you're going to do next, because the Chariot feels like this moment where it's the end of the line 1 in the major arcana. So it's like, how are you going to go to Strength, or are you going to stay here at the Chariot? What are you going to do? How are you going to move forward? And then with the Tower, it's like, well, things have crumbled. So what are you doing now? So, I mean, I feel like they could relate back to each other in those ways, but that is such an interesting lens to look at it. Like, yeah, the Chariot being the decision to, I don't know, but rebuild the foundation.
Yeah, just tear down what's not working. And
yeah,
I mean, and in that train of thought, it can be, okay, so what are you fighting for or against? But really, like, why are you fighting for that? Is it really what you believe? Is it really true to who you are? Do you really believe all that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like, oh, how do I put this? Fighting for something that you do want to become in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of that clearing of the foundation.
Yeah. Exactly.
I also love how we're always like translating the cards to, we're sick of this type of shit and we're gonna do something about it.
Yes, very true.
But you know, in this Tower, looking at it, I'm like, what if the people falling out, what if that's not even their tower? And the Chariot's like, you know what? I'm starting over. I'm doing things differently the way they should be. Like you said, following your passion, doing something that you truly believe in. I was just thinking about that when I was listening to you talk about that and looking at the Tower. And I'm like, what if they don't even belong there?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's so good to get a perspective like that, because I think it's really easy to, when we're reading tarot, to fully internalize things, which I think is just a human thing to do. And especially with something like tarot, we're tapping into intuitive spaces and we're, trying to learn more about ourselves. But like, really, the external stuff happens. Like, it's not, some stuff is completely out of our control. So
yeah, that's true. And I mean, just what kind of struck me with what Elena was just saying is, maybe that's the decision to say, leave the job that you really can't stand because you're not treated right, or, paid fairly, whatever the reason. Right. And once you leave, your absence is really noticed and felt, and, they've just fall apart without you. Like, it could be that kind of a situation too. But then that kind of calls for the thing. It's like, that's not your problem.
Yeah.
So
that's like when I tell my coworkers about when they want to take a stress leave, well, who's going to do the job? That's not your problem. Just take it.
Right.
You're going through a Tower moment and you need to take a leave. Take a leave.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck what happens here? They'll figure it out. That's their job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So real life examples of being in that 7 energy could be like when you realize the problem you've been facing is actually internal and has nothing to do with all the people and things you were trying to blame. That is some serious dead ass shadow work. And
totally.
I like learning about and taking a stand for something you believe in, or, that you want to be against, something that you find unjust, stepping out of your comfort zone. And I like this life coach, soul coach, inspiring others to take power back and shine their light. Who wrote that one? That's smart.
I did.
That's so smart.
Thank you.
Okay. And then serving humanity in any way. So like a doctor, therapist, social worker, healthcare. I'd like to add, tarot reader, spiritual guide, things like that as well, which I guess kind of goes back to your life coach thing. And I like the idea too, the start Reiki healing.
Moving on to the 8s. So for the tarot-based meanings, we have mastery, action, accomplishments, rebirth, changes, power, transformation, breakthroughs, priorities, becoming clearer. Numerology-based, we have abundance, material, wealth, ambitious, authority, personal power, karma, goal-oriented, naturally magnetic, leadership qualities, big picture thinking, climbing the mountain, workaholics, controlling, possessive, learn to contribute to the greater good, lift others as you climb. I like that one. Freeing from burdens. The infinity symbol, or I'm going to say this wrong. Lemon. I've never heard of this word. What is lemniscati?
I've never seen it either.
It's lemniscat or lemniscate, which is just another name for the infinity symbol.
I love it.
Lemniscate. I like
lemniscate. I don't know.
That's
lemonade. Just call it lemonade.
Lemonade. There we go.
Lemonade.
Why are we always doing this? Cycles, patterns. It is a pattern of ours. Time. And in the mental
brilliant.
This is the example of the pattern. The Yentl book, the meaning is influence through authority. By walking the talk, you gain momentum as a leader. Ooh. Choosing your style of leadership could go either way, leading by example, letting your work speak for itself, or keeping ego in check. Be proud, but stay humble. By walking the talk, you gain momentum as a leader. I really like that because sometimes, because being a leader is very infectious, I feel like. And when people see that, they want to shine like the way you do and they want to find out how you do the way that you do. But then I also know I've seen where there could be people who have like that leader aspect, but they aren't that, like, I guess they aren't like that great of a leader, and like their qualities are kind of negative and people still follow that. So
Mhm.
yeah, because I've seen that in different parts of my life where I could see people who are normally strong, but they like, they're negative, or like they're like the mean girl kind of quality. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you have that popularity, why use it in a negative way? Like,
That's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, is your leadership based on fear or is it based on respect?
Mm-hmm.
right. It's like, who are you really trying to impress here? Like, who are you really living for, really? Like,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And then the cards associated with the eights, of course, the eights of each suit, strength and the star. And then some of the connections or the shared themes between the 8 cards are maturity and patience, doing the thing even if it's not easy, caretaking, which is seen throughout the majors, the swords and the 8 of cups. This person is walking away from something that's no longer like working out for them or making sense to them, or is just no longer good for them. So they're tending to a different need, like they're taking care of their soul needs and they're walking away to something that doesn't make sense, or to something better.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 8 of swords, this is a
I think this is mental health caretaking.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I'm really into this, the leadership ideas that are coming through specifically with the numerology side of things, because I don't think I've ever seen the eights in general as speaking very loudly to leadership, but it makes perfect sense to me, and especially the leading by example type thing.
Mhm.
I mean, like, if you can get yourself through an 8 of Swords moment,
Yeah.
then when other people see you do that, like Elena was saying, you're inspired to do the same. But you're not
Yeah.
just preaching a bunch of bullshit about, oh, this is what you should do for your mental health and self-care and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, but you're actually doing the work. And I see
Yeah.
that I'm a little less convinced of the 8 of Wands, although I feel like that card lives its own life on its own terms. Like, it just does not conform, I
Yeah.
feel like, to any grouping. But I see this in the 8 of Cups, like being willing to actually walk away from something. In the 8 of Pentacles, being willing to put that work in to, master something. And then especially in Strength and the Star, I mean,
Yes.
strength being like, actually doing the work to however you kind of want to see that card, whether it's like taming your inner demons or not getting so defensive about something. But I feel like that takes work, and specifically its connection with Leo makes it such a
Mhm.
leadership type energy. And then again with the star, that's just more self-care stuff. And the star isn't like, go take a bath and you're going to be better. The star is like deep nervous system healing. And again, it's
Yeah.
like practicing what you preach. And
Yeah.
this is huge. Like, I'm saying this as it comes to me, but this is huge for me. This is a breakthrough. I really
Yeah.
like the eights a lot right now.
Well, I mean, if we circle back to that 8 of Wands too, like the way I see that in a leadership kind of lens is because we all know it's no secret I hate hierarchy. I don't like the system of hierarchy. So that's almost
What?
like leading. I know it's a surprise. I'm sorry. Don't be shocked. But it's like a collaborative effort. It's everyone's your equal. Everybody's throwing in their ideas and their ambitions, and they're throwing in their talents and working together as a team. And I mean, each team ends up with a leader regardless, not as a hierarchy system, but somebody just seems to always step up and steer the boat. So maybe together, everyone's leading the way, but you've just got this one person who's, kind of gathering
Right.
everything and then streamlining. So I don't know. That's kind of where I come at with the leadership, the
Yeah,
card
I
8 of Wands.
really dig that, specifically because the 8 of Wands feels so like separate kind of from the
Yeah.
group. So yes, everyone is working on it together, but then someone's kind of coming through and shining within
Yeah.
that group in a
Yeah.
way. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like that's the card that comes before the Eight of Pentacles in my mind. That's so
Oh,
you've got
okay.
that one person who's taking everybody's creative ideas and they're the one that's putting it to practical use.
Gotcha.
And, not that they're stealing ideas. I mean, like they're the ones
Yeah.
that are
Well,
carrying it out.
it's like a collaboration that then, I mean, we could break
Yeah.
this down in many ways just within us. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
let's just say we all collaborate to make the podcast, but then I go and I edit it. Just
Mhm.
something like that on a very
Yeah.
basic level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then some of the in real life examples of being an 8 energy is going back to school or start your dream career, making a life change for the better, leaving a toxic relationship, starting healthy habits. And then if you are a leader, it's delegating tasks or just, not, taking on that heavy load, but just knowing that you are a leader, you have that team, so you can delegate your tasks, be more of an effective leader, I feel.
Yeah. Really loving the 8s right now.
Me too. And I'm also loving the connection with the strength and how you really need that strength card energy for all of these 8 situations.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We ready for 9s?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, so some tarot-based energies or themes would be fruition, attainment, fulfillment, nearing completion, climax, the final push, testing our limits, and the point of no return. The numerology-based themes are an old soul, been there, got the t-shirt, understanding of complex concepts, spiritual, higher state of consciousness, inspires other to explore what's beyond them. Can be a little bit like flighty, out of this world type energy, and so needs to be grounded from time to time. So maybe seeking a balance between body and spirit, understanding, forgiveness, compassion, soul purpose, and awakening. Sorry, spiritual awakening. And then with the life you are born to live, we've got integrity through wisdom. Totally. The hermit. Is this another one of your quotes, Jekanovia?
I don't think it's my quote. I know I've read it somewhere, so I can't take credit for this one. But when you know better, you must do better.
Beautiful.
So it's like, and with this one, it's almost like, again, talking like about the hierarchy, beware that you're not speaking at people when you're sharing something you've learned or, something you're passionate about, whether it's, a good cause or whatever. Just make sure you're speaking with people, not at them, because if it's not a conversation, it's not going to be effective. And, you're not going to get where you want to go. So it's sharing the wisdoms through kind of balanced conversations, a willingness to learn new ideas from other and letting go of outdated beliefs. Be okay with being wrong or being misguided or whatever. It's like the marrying of leadership and professional vibes of that 8 with the intuitive and wise vibe of the 9s to carry us into the 10 energy. So, I'll talk about that when we get to the 10s. Yeah.
All right. So the cards here, of course, are the 9s of each suit, the Hermit and the Moon. And then some shared themes would be solitary times, whether that's easy or tough. You're alone, but sort of connecting to something greater. I mean, a lot of the times the figures are alone in these cards, but there was something that really stood out to me about that fact within the 9s, because it's, again, whether it's a rough time or a happy time of being alone, there just felt like this solitary presence to me. And I wrote down, as I was reading the Liz Worth book today, I did write down something else about the 9s. I really liked this note. The 9s, and kind of going back to that like solitary energy, but it's like this, it's this final step or barrier. And I guess it depends on how you kind of look at that part in your journey. But I think because it's so close to the end of something, that some of that doubt might start kicking in about like what the outcome is actually going to be. Are you actually going to get there? And yeah, taking a look at the lens that you're seeing it through and being like, am I treating this as a step? Like a stepping stone or an obstacle? What can I do here to kind of shift it around? So
I think I remember reading that part and it didn't really strike me, but now that you've said it, I'm like, oh,
yeah, got to me. Well, that's all we had in the notes for like some connections and shared themes. Is anything else coming up for you gals in the moment?
I mean, I just keep thinking of the 9. So humans, I mean, no, not every pregnancy, but human pregnancies last 9 months. And at the end of that 9 months, just before the 10th month, the child comes into the world. So that is that threshold. That's that the birthing process. Maybe it's not comfortable. Maybe it's like that threshold into something new, a new life or a new idea or something, but it's like that moment, and sometimes it's painful, but it's that moment before the glory.
Wow. And that is a solitary moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the mother
You
and the
have to go through
baby,
your
but I
own.
mean, like, it's the baby coming into the world on its own, and it's the mother doing the work on her own.
Yeah.
Or on their own, I
Yeah,
should say.
exactly. And I mean, you could even take that metaphorically to somebody's project or business or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I hope it's understood that whenever we talk about birthing energy or like, especially with Empress and stuff, it's like
Yes.
creative projects, real babies, whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's like all of it together.
Yeah.
Yes. It is definitely not something that's just reserved for humans who are able to give birth.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
It's not just about sperm.
Definitely not about sperm. Definitely not about sperm.
Hell no.
All right. So yeah, so that was kind of an in real life example, which was great.
Yeah.
It could also be pausing, whether it's projects or relationships. We might see larger pauses with the majors and then kind of maybe more brief ones within the minors. It could be working with a counselor to heal some trauma, spending time on your own, taking a me day. That seems like one of the more, minor arcana type things for sure. And then light workers.
Yeah. Because, the light workers, it's like they're bringing that spiritual wisdom and spiritual understanding and peace into the physical world. So they are standing at that threshold.
Now I'm even thinking about it on the opposite end of things with death and being prepared for death.
Yes. That's what I was thinking with the tens. And I was almost thinking about that when you were talking about birthing, because when the baby's born, there's a death that when someone dies, the baby's born, basically.
Yeah.
I guess that's the saying or whatever. So I was trying to connect the two, but wasn't sure if anybody else.
Well, even for the person giving birth, it's a death of an old life in a sense, or it's a death of an old way. And
well, and there's also being a mom. This is kind of the way I look at it, is when you give birth, it's a continuation of your life after you've passed. So that blood is still going to run and you're leaving your legacy. So there is a lot of death. It doesn't mean you die at the same moment. It just means that you're going to live on when you do. I know that's dark, but
no,
that's how I
love that. That was a really beautiful way of saying it. But I even see it as in like, because when you talk about threshold, my mind does go to other things like that, such as death and like being at that precipice. And maybe it is with a light worker or a counselor or a death doula or something like that, that this is an IRL moment of like working through that 9 energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being prepared for the cycle to come to an end.
And they're not all alone in the 9s. There's Gertrude there or Iris chilling.
That's true.
We can't forget her.
That's true. Oh, and do you know what?
True,
One of our listeners got in touch with us. I almost forgot about this.
Yes.
I'm so glad you brought this up. It's actually a falcon.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
To tell you.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of our listeners actually sent us an IG and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And they were so great because they actually gave us more information that obviously I can't think of off the top of my head, but I was like, that makes so much sense that it's a falcon. Okay.
I'm going to look.
Anyway.
Okay. So that came from our Instagram friend, Braids, Buns, and Ball Caps. And isn't it cute? I love it.
Yeah.
No,
and they said that, so the bird is a falcon and the lady is a falconer. But basically back in the day, falconry was a male dominated sport and it would have been very unheard of for a lady to enter that world. So this might have meant that the lady has really made it in the world and she can handle her own and does well for herself. She did for herself instead of being waited upon. She trusted her determination and made things happen. She doesn't wait for others. She can take care of herself. If that does not describe Elena, I don't know what does. But yeah, thank you so much, listener Braids, Buns, and Ball Caps, the cutest name on Instagram. Yeah, that was so awesome to learn.
You. And you know what? And I have to think too, when Pamela Smith was creating these, she obviously would have known that. She would have known that was a male dominated thing. So it's almost like she purposely put that in there, like a role reversal, because she was herself in a male dominated line of work.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like she had pretty free reign with the minors. Like I think that Arthur
Yeah.
Waite had a very clear vision for the majors,
The
but I mean,
majors,
until
yeah.
her, they were just unillustrated pits.
Yes.
So
Yes. And I want to state one more time because it gets under my skin because anybody who I've told this did not know it, but Pamela Smith was a Black woman, and she deserves to be credited as a Black woman who created this tarot deck. And I just want to make sure now everybody knows, so I don't have to shock anybody else when I tell them.
Do we know that for sure? Like, because the last thing that I listened to had said that she was definitely a woman of color, but her heritage was like, we're just not sure specifically.
Jamaican, as far as I've heard, I think her father was Jamaican, I believe. I'd have to check that, double check it.
I think I read that too, if I'm not mistaken.
It does sound really familiar. I think that just the podcast I was listening to wanted to be like, we don't know specifically like the ancestry here, but we know she was a woman of color for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember where I read it.
Well, if you want to know more about her, there is an excellent podcast called Missing Witches. And one of their very first episodes is about Pamela Coleman Smith. And it is so good. Yeah.
I need to check that out.
I'll link it for sure.
All right. Thank you for joining me on that tangent.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad that Elena brought it up, that you remembered, and that we got to shout out the listener.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for tens? We're gonna complete
the
cycle with the tens. Okay. So the tens are technically, according to numerology, are also part of the ones. So 1 + 0 is 1. So this is where, when we talk about things having the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning, this is what we're talking about. It always cycles back. So the tarot-based meanings are completion, end of a cycle, renewal, coming full circle, moving forward, release, spiral, and cycle.
It sounds like an option on your washing machine. Release, spiral, and cycle.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I'd buy that.
Sounds fun.
Conclusion and beginning. Endings can be good, bad, and everything that's in between. And I think, too, that speaks to needing to accept that fact. Something doesn't have to feel good, even though it's ending. Like, sometimes it just sucks.
Yes. I think it's a very bittersweet thing, right? Like,
yeah.
You've made it, but now it's over. So,
yeah, now it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, so some numerology meanings are, as we mentioned, it technically falls under the ones. So this is initiation, pioneering spirit, leadership. Sorry, a pioneering spirit, leadership, independence, autonomous, bossy or boastful, feelings of self-importance. You must remember to seek support, community, and creating your own destiny. So the Life You Were Born to Live book. Tens are technically, it's considered your inner gifts. So if you have this in your life path number, according to the book, it means that whatever kind of comes with it is you have a special gift. Not that you're more important than someone else. It's just it may come more easily to you, or you may have more lessons on it in your life, or things like that.
Yeah.
So creativity through security. So it's circling back to that one again. Okay. So I just had some thoughts here. So now that you've traveled through all these other numbers, you're now at the ending/beginning of a cycle. So where's this going to take you? How can you apply or combine your creativity and security from your ones, your balance and cooperation from your twos, your expression and sensitivity from your threes, process and stability from your fours, your freedom and discipline from your five, your vision acceptance from sixes, trust and openness from sevens, influence and authority from eights, integrity and wisdom from the nines. So you want to combine all these skills that you've learned and hone these lessons that you've learned in a way that's going to allow you to really put your inner gifts to use. So what have you recognized within yourself? Something that's going to carry you forward. How can you grow into the next version of yourself? So that's what this is all about. It's not about figuring out who you are and what your gifts are and then just stopping right there. It's like, okay, so now what? What's next? So this is going to carry you right back to that starting point of one. So you can basically start over as your new self. And then you're going to put all your creativity back to use, but in a different way, or in a more focused way, or from a different perspective. So
I love that. I love that you brought all of the keywords from the book back for a recap. That was really good.
I wasn't sure if I was going to.
No, it's good. It gave that proper weight, I think, to the 10.
Yeah, because that's the thing with the 10s. It's everything. It's your whole journey up until this point. So
totally.
Yeah. So the cards that go with this, obviously the 10s of each suit and the Wheel of Fortune, and some connected.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I guess we could include the Magician and the Sun since it's technically a 1,
True.
but I figured we'd just keep it to, like, more specifically 10, but
Yeah. And I want to include the Fool too, because that's
okay,
that new
cool,
beginning.
yeah.
That's that new life that,
Hmm.
that's that new version of
Yeah,
yourself. And now you're on this new adventure, like from this different perspective,
I
from
like
this
that.
different personality, whatever.
And then when you mentioned about like what's next, like you have everything here, like even with the tens, like looking at all the tens, what's next? And you've learned everything from the 1 through from the tens. It reminds me of now you're going to the next, which is the pages. And it's that
Hmm,
fresh, like kid
Sweet.
energy. So it's like you're
yeah.
starting almost over again with
Yes.
the aces.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Well, and because I don't know, in my mind, I would say the pages are probably 11, and that's double ones. So that's
Ooh,
double the creativity through security.
Mm.
yeah. But there are other ways too where they do feel, I mean, sometimes I can see the aces, the pages, and the Fool having a connection.
So it's almost like they're fluid and they can be what they need to be.
Yeah.
It's good. It's yummy. Okay, so some connections with those cards, with all the 10 cards, is kind of a sense of fullness, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. There's like this sense that there's enough and sometimes too much. So, too much of a good thing isn't always a good thing. And then a kind of a finality. So the ending has come, whether it's happy or sad or whatever it happens to be. So it's time to accept it. It's because remember, we already learned that vision and acceptance from the sixes. So now it's time to accept the ending
Mm.
and move on. Don't dwell. So some real life examples of this 10 energy is like a graduation, retirement or career change, moving to a new home, marriage or having children, breaking karmic cycles. I love that one. That was a really good point. And death.
Yeah, breaking karmic cycles is great. Elena, you wrote that, yeah?
I did.
Do you feel like that came in through Wheel of Fortune a little bit or just all the cards?
The Wheel of Fortune and the 10 of Pentacles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of legacies. Reminds me of legacies. So when I was looking at those two together, it's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
like that. Yeah, I mean that even works with the 10 of Swords too, because you're not going to break those karmic cycles until you skewer it with 10 swords in the back. You got to let it go. You got to work through it and go through the shit, and then the dawn comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that new cycle with the dawn.
Yeah. Oh, this was fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think I said this while we were recording, but like the idea of, breaking the tarot down by number, breaking it down by suit, breaking it down by element. It just gives you these new lenses to see the deck through. And it's not just a big deck of 78 cards with all of these different meanings and so much happening. It's like, it's actually these really small, digestible pieces.
And I'm hoping that too, because we're breaking things down from all these different angles, from, the numerology, from the astrology and elements and all of that. I hope that listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with the tarot, and I'm hoping this helps them kind of gain a little bit of confidence and realize that how
Sure.
they see the cards is just as valid as how we do, because we're coming up with all these different perspectives and we're learning still.
Oh
So
my gosh, yes, I learn
yeah.
every time we talk. And the thing too is that like we can break it down in all of these different ways and none of it could resonate and that's totally fine. Like
Yeah.
you can pick up the 10 of wands and not see fire, not see the number
Mhm.
10, not see like any of it. It's just whatever it is to you when you read it. It just helps to
It's
like
still correct.
when you look at it and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Sometimes it helps to have those like foundations, but
Yeah. Yeah. And then you
sometimes it
just
helps
build
to
on them.
throw them out.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And if I'm being honest, like we could revisit this exact topic next season
Yeah,
and we would probably have completely different perspectives.
I think so
Probably.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure some things would stay, but
Yeah.
obviously there would be new insights or changed insights or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I like that we keep revisiting symbols, even though it is a different thing every time, but we're also going to be
Mm-hmm.
revisiting court cards every season from a new kind of lens. So, last year we talked about it through the elements. This year, we're doing something so exciting where, you know, like Elena's going to kind of lead the day, like talking about them in personality wise, which I'm super excited about. And
I
then
can't
next season,
wait.
we're going to do like a more astrological type of focus. And so, I mean, it's just, there's so many ways that you can look at these cards. And
I'm excited about the personalities.
oh my gosh, I
Me too.
cannot wait to just hear you. I kind of want to hear you rip into these personalities, like just
Yes.
read them for filth.
I'm not going to lie.
Sagittarius, from a Sagittarius lens, it's going to be off the
Big truth telling. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making a whole pot of tea for that one so it can be spilled everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I'm gonna
saying.
I have to prep really good for that one because I have some ideas.
It's gonna be great.
Well, like that.
is.
I don't know, because sometimes like I'm high and then I get the best ideas, and like the day
then
like
they're gone.
right.
Gotta write them
So that's
down.
why I need to write them down. Right. So when I always have to keep a journal around because, you know, I get high with Jesus and then the ideas fly in. And I'm telling you, listen, that's how I got that idea with the ancestors with the pentacle suit. It's the ancestor lineage of the emperor and the empress. Like the emperor and the empress are the big
yes.
And then, yeah, see, I got all of that when I was lit as fuck.
You should try, if you can, just use use the voice recording app on your phone.
Yes.
Yeah, I should.
Because you know it's in your hand anyway at that point.
Right.
Scrolling through Instagram.
And then just talk through what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus those are the best messages to come and listen to. Because you're like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Some of this is good, but some of this is wild.
I know, right?
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. That's going to do it for our journey through numerology. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let us know if you think we missed anything or if you have anything to add to this little mini study. And in case you didn't know, we are over on Patreon. We're doing lots of fun stuff over there. We have early access to episodes, behind the scenes stuff. So you know how, like giddy and stuff and ridiculous we get when we record. There's even more of that to be had over on the Patreon.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. Definitely not safe for work.
Absolutely not.
I do not think we will ever have behind the scenes that are safe for work. So
I don't think
that's
so.
just your disclaimer.
I hate safe. I don't like anything safe.
And we also do monthly card pull videos. We've got some astrology stuff happening. Jekanovia is teaching us all about mundane magics. There's just so much happening. So go and check it out if you're interested. If you can help support the show, that would be lovely. But there's free ways to do it too. You can leave us a review, and if you leave us a 5-star review and you take a screenshot and you send it over to us, you're going to get a free reading. So super easy.
Yes, that's true.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, listeners. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you
for your support.
Los quiero mucho. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Tarot Coven Cast. Stay tuned for our next episode, which is our book club episode featuring The Power of Tarot by Liz Worth. And until then, everyone, keep making magic.